Hey, Biology 1 students. Mr. Harrison and I are going to walk you through this assignment. If you have not done all the previous assignments, please get those done first so that this makes sense to you. And the next life hack is do read through the instructions. This video would be much longer if we read through them, but it will help you understand. Please, that's why the words are on the page. And so this is a genetic trait lab that you'll be doing at home, and you need to have one person assist you. So hey, when you just have thought you've you've talked about everything under the sun you could talk about with your family, here's something new. And so to begin this, we are going to need to determine who is going to be mom and who's going to be dad. So, and from that, we're going to put down our genotypes, okay, for female or male. So, Mr. Harrison, what are the genotypes for male and female?
Well, a female has, in the case of humans, 2 chromosomes that are the same. We call those the sex chromosomes. It's the 23rd pair. So the females are X and X. And if you're male, you have an X and a Y. So your 23rd pair of chromosomes are not the same. And you got your X chromosome from your mom's egg cell. And if you're female, you got your other X chromosome from your father's sperm cell. However, if you are male, you got your X chromosome from your mom's egg, because that's the only option out of an egg cell, but you got a Y chromosome from your father's sperm cell.
Okay. Guys have a Y.
Guys have a Y.
Guys
we are
have
the
a Y.
XYers, you're the XXers.
Okay. Now, we are 2 different genders.
Mm-hmm.
So we could figure out who mom is and who dad is and just like go with our existing genders, but we could also flip for it. Mm-hmm. So we're going to just flip for yucks and grins, okay? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to flip. So the instructions, let me follow the instructions, say that heads will be female, heads will be an X, and tails will be a Y. And we both know that one of our chromosomes is an X. We already know that because mom will have provided an X. So both of our moms would have, we know that mom provided an X chromosome. That's the only chromosome that she can provide in her, by contributing her egg cell. So she's always going to have 2 X's, X. And we know that Mr. Harrison has one as well. And we're going to flip to see what contribution. So I'm going to flip, and if I have heads, that's going to mean female, and if I get tails, that's male. So I'll just be flipping, and then my partner will be the opposite sex, so that we can make an on-paper baby. Oh, dang, it went, Harrison's going to go fetch that. Yeah. His head, so I am going to remain my existing gender. I'm going to say female. And so that looks like, that's me. And I'm going to declare myself the mama. Okay, I'm mom. Harrison's going to be dad. So please do that to your paper to show me he's Papa, I'm Mama. Is that with, I'm a Moma.
You're a Moma. That's all right.
I'm a Moma. I can't spell Mama. And now we're gonna make a baby, and we gotta know the child's phenotype. So we wanna know the gender first of that kid. Here we go. We're gonna make a baby.
So you know that there has to be the only option out of the mother. Remember that when she makes, I'm not holding it so I can't see what I'm doing here. When she makes egg cells, only one of these 2 is going to go into an egg cell.
Egg cells from
so the only option for an egg cell is to have an X chromosome. As a male, you have X and Y's. However, in a sperm cell, the sperm will only have either an X or a Y, such that half of the sperm cells have the Y, half of the sperm cells have the X.
I'm not personally responsible for the gender of this baby, so I got to pass it.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down for this first kid, I'm putting an X down already because we know from mom
or MoMA's egg cell, it had to have been an X that came from her because that was the only option. So here we go.
So I'm gonna be like that, but Dad's gonna be like, it could be that way or it could be that way. That way, that way. He's gonna have one X for sure. That's represented by heads.
And what is that? Is
He's
heads
making
is,
the baby.
heads
Oh,
is,
he makes the gender.
heads is an X. And we have, it's a heads. So we have a,
We got a girl.
we have a girl.
It's a girl.
What are we gonna name it?
I'm gonna pause this. I can go get a baby.
Oh,
It's a baby. Okay. Go ahead, baby. Okay, so, oh, by the way, phenotype. For my, that may be a new vocabulary word for you. I can't remember if it's on the Snurful Interactive. So genotype is what the genes look like. Phenotype is how that presents in the organism. In other words, we made a baby, well, we made a baby girl. So the phenotype, we can say girl or female. I'm gonna say female because that lasts throughout its lifetime. Okay, so genotype is XX, phenotype is female. Okay, so we're just gonna do a couple of these so you can kind of get the hang of how it works. Now, in your instructions, after you get past the gender part, you're going to remember that heads will represent the dominant trait and tails will represent the recessive. And most genes work by a dominant recessive setup to where, puppy making noise, we're going to get a noisy thing away from, all right, took the bottle, the plastic bottle away from noisy puppy, and Harrison's going to explain dominant recessive to you.
so for your traits, many of your traits are controlled by a single gene. And I say many, most of your traits, the characteristics that make you you, are actually not controlled by a single gene. It's multiple genes, but we can't teach it that way. So we're going to do it the single gene traits. And what we find is that you have a pair of genes that control the trait. One of those genes, remember, came from mom's egg cell. One came from father's sperm cell. Those are located along chromosomes, and they operate in tandem. In many cases, what will happen is that one gene can override the effects or essentially shut off the other gene. The gene that can override the other gene or shut off the other gene, we refer to as being the dominant form of that gene. And the one that gets shut off or gets silenced if that other one is present is what we refer to as the recessive form of that gene. A new term for you also, new forms of genes we refer to as alleles. So if Ms. Graham or I use that term allele, because we might do that by accident, we're talking about a form of a gene. Okay.
And also on this, almost all of these are single trait dominant recessive, but there are a couple that are a little bit different. So when you run into those, don't get concerned. I think there are a couple where we have co-dominant or what's the other one? It's co-dominant and incomplete dominance.
So we'll explain that probably with flowers.
Okay. So don't just go with the instructions and roll with it. Oh, and there are a couple that are have double alleles. So maybe we'll go through one of those to show them how to do that. Okay, so here's how this will work. The first one is face shape. And so when I look at face shape on the instructions, go to the right page, why do I not see it? Okay. Oh, it's on the front. We're there. Face shape. So it's going to tell us what the genotype is going to be for round and for squarish face shape. And here's where you can start getting into fights, because you can start saying, oh, honey, do I have a round face or a squarish face?
You have a round face.
Now, I have studied women's magazines over the years, and I know that I have a squarish face, and that is why I'm wearing this kind of glasses. So he is wrong, and we're going to fight.
So, honey,
don't worry about it, because it doesn't really matter. You can pick if you want your face to be round, if you think my face is round, whatever, but I'm going to decide. You might want to just decide for yourself and just be agreeable with the other person. I'm gonna put down square.
Okay.
I have a strong jawline.
Okay.
Mm.
So yes. So when you did that, square was dominant or recessive?
It is recessive, and it shows the letter. So we're getting away from the letter X that we used for the sex genes. We're going to use the letter R here for round, because when you're picking a letter of the alphabet for your alleles, you go with the dominant feature. So R for round, but the squarish is going to be lowercase r's to represent that it's the recessive.
So we use capital letters for the dominant form of the gene or the dominant allele, and we use lowercase, the same letter.
So that means I must have got one of them square alleles from my daddy and a square allele from my mama. So I got two lowercase r's.
What is my fit shape? I never really thought about it because I don't read women magazines.
Well, I would say oval, but it's not an option.
Okay,
So we got to pick one. And I don't want to get in a fight with you. So you might want to pick your own.
I'll be that round-headed kid.
I think you're the round, and maybe since you're not super round, well,
Yeah.
that's
All right. So my partner's genotype. All we know
two choices.
is that I could be this, or I could be this.
Oh yeah, that is true. You one or the other. Now, to keep this interesting in the mix and to show that you know what you're doing, there is a request that I don't know if I have in writing. Let's see. I want you to almost always choose to do one uppercase, one lowercase if you have that trait, instead of doing the two upper.
Okay.
And I usually have like a number of how many you can do that way, like no more than, and I'm not seeing it on here, so I will say no more than 5. Homozygous, homozygous, dominant traits, dominant traits. Okay, so we'll add that into your instructions, and that is so that when you're doing these mixes, you got to flip the coin a little bit more. So for this one, we'll have Harrison pick the one that is heterozygous, because we don't want to use too many. Homo means same, remember, hetero means different. So this is going to be the way I'd prefer you to pick it almost all the time. So that's heterozygous dominant. So we don't know what this baby's going to look like. We don't know if she's going to get, I can only contribute one thing, which will be the lowercase r, but Harrison's going to have to flip for which one she gets on this.
So why don't you go ahead and write down your contribution to that offspring? Because that's the only option she could have given that offspring, right? And heads is dominant, so we now have a round-headed daughter. It came up heads. So if by convention, we write that if it's heterozygous, we write the, hang on a second. By convention, if we're writing, if it's heterozygous, I'm trying to find my pencil here. We write the uppercase letter first, then we write the lowercase letter. All right.
And I'm going to hit pause. I think we're going to do one.
As a result of the pair of genes that were given to the offspring, a dominant and a recessive, this child will have the dominant form override the recessive form of that gene. And as a result, the child's phenotype, what it looks like or the trait it has as a result of the genes, its phenotype is it's going to be a round-faced little girl. There we go.
We're going to do another one.
Mm-hmm.
One more example, and then we'll also go through what some of these traits mean in case you're like, I don't know, what's that mean? We'll help you out with that. Just a quick blast. So one of the options is hitchhiker's thumb. And so hitchhiker's thumb is if when you stick your thumb out, you got a nice curve. Could you show that, Harrison? So Harrison clearly has a hitchhiker's thumb, and mine doesn't bend back, so I do not have a hitchhiker's thumb. So when I look at, I've skipped down quite a ways. Let's see, hitchhiker's thumb. It says thumb here. So straight, I now am the one who has the option. Straight is the dominant. That doesn't mean it's the most prevalent. It just means if it shows in a population. It just means if it shows up, it's the one that's going to express itself in the individual. So I could choose either the 2 capital S's or the capital S lowercase. I'm going to go ahead and do the het so that we can flip. And then Harrison's is both homozygous recessive, so there's no choice there. So I'm going to go ahead and put mine down as, oh, I'm going to have to change that. I'll show you why. I need to change so that my lowercase, that was a yucky eraser. It smeared a lot of darkness, okay? I'm gonna do a cursive. Now you may not know cursive. If you don't know cursive, make some curly cues. You need to do something. So I'll give you some options down below.
Do something. I don't think it's...
Do something. You have to do something very, very noticeable because it'll matter when we're looking at these for grading if we can't tell. And you may think we should be able to tell, but if you got them really close, and sometimes when you're going fast, it happens all the time. So please, please, please.
I have students that will sometimes tell me that this is obviously heterozygous, and I'll say, really? Because
Not so obvious.
not so obvious. So use a cursive.
Yeah.
The lowercase.
Okay, so and then Harrison's going to write his down. He knows cursive, so he'll probably use the cursive S.
I will use the
If
cursive.
you don't know cursive, what a great opportunity to have another fun conversation with family. They would love to help you.
I am homozygous recessive because I have Hitchhiker's thumb, and so I have 2 recessive alleles.
Here's the point to flip. Oh, wait, I'm the flipper because I'm the one who is the decider on this one, which it's going to be. All right. So,
Did you explain why you're the decider?
oh, would you explain one?
Sure.
Decider?
Because
I'm the bossy one.
Because I am the homozygous recessive, I have both of my alleles are the same, so I'm homozygous. That means that my sperm cell, when sperm cells are made, it's either going to be this allele or this allele that goes into a sperm cell. We'll pick which one you want. Actually, it doesn't matter. 100% of my sperm cells would have this form of the gene, this allele in them. So therefore, that's the only option of my contribution to the offspring. Whereas
My gametes are 50-50 on
hers
this
are
one.
50-50. Half of her eggs have that allele, half of her eggs have that allele. So therefore, she's
Ooh.
flipping on this one. You're,
What?
you're flipping. You are flipping.
You call me flippant. Okay, here we go. Oh, that landed conveniently on my knee. We didn't have to go fetch that one. That's head, so the dominant trait's going to show up. And so guess what? That kid can go a hitchhiking, right?
Mhm.
So I got my dominant shows up. Your
Mhm.
recessive
My
shows up.
recessive from the sperm cell shows up.
My kid's going to
The kid is heterozygous.
grow up to be a hitchhiker. That is not what this isn't a behavioral.
No, that is not Hitchhiker. That's straight thumb.
Well, oh, it's important to go back and see what you're talking about. Oh, and one way to remember it's straight, because if it was Hitchhiker's thumb, if
It'd be
that
an
were dominant, it would be an H for the letter and not an S. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. It's nice to work with a partner who can catch your errors.
And they can catch mine. So we have a straight thumb, round-faced girl.
So you'd be going through all of these. When you get to the ones that have the freak, when you get to the ones like for hair and for, oh, that's eyes. Oh, it's hair color too. So there are some that have multiple alleles. You just take one at a time. Work on the A's first when you're flipping, and then work and then flip for the B's. Okay. Did we go through that, or do you think they can get that? Some students struggle with that, I know.
Yeah, let's do.
All right, we'll do one. You want to do hair or do you want to do eyes?
Let's do.
Bell. The long bell.
Let's do eye colors
Eye color?
because I think it's easier to distinguish.
Okay. You don't think we'll fight as much?
No.
Okay. So my eyes are that. What are your eyes?
Are they green?
They look hazel to me right now. Mine look green to me, but some
Yours
people
look
say mine are blue.
green. Sometimes they look blue. Look at the thing right there.
I want to look at my nose.
Yeah, they're more blue than green.
No.
And mine,
Right now, too.
yeah, I think mine are green. Yours are more blue. We'll go
All right.
we'll go
Green
light blue and green.
or gray blue? Hazel, what's hazel? That's kind of like a light brown,
It's
isn't it?
brown and
We can
green.
both be green. There's nothing to
No,
flip for though.
Yeah, it won't be as fun.
Okay, we'll call yours gray blue for illustration purposes. Eh?
Why? Because
Oh.
you're what?
I'm gonna be green, aren't I? Or do you want me to
you're
be
green.
blue?
That's fine.
Right,
You're
right.
fine. You're blue, and I'll be
Oh, I'll be pale blue.
yeah, you're pale blue,
Okay.
and I will be hazel.
Okay, we're fudging a little.
I think hazel in my driver's license.
Okay.
But sometimes people think they're green.
Okay,
So
so
we go
where
down.
eye color.
Eye color.
So my color was, because it's got multiple thingamajiggers, we're calling mine pale blue.
Homozygous recessive for both genes.
B.
Uh-huh.
So mine looks like,
So she is homozygous recessive for the A allele, and she's homozygous recessive for the B allele. And on mine, I lost it. Where is it? Eye color. Eye color for, did we decide Hazel? I am heterozygous for the A allele, and I am homozygous dominant for the B allele. So maybe the first thing to do is for the offspring, we're going to show what possibilities she was going to contribute out of her egg cell.
okay. So just starting with the A's. I have no choice. I'm going to give a lowercase a or a lowercase a, meaning I'm going to give the allele for, what's this? For light blue. Okay. So I know that that's the case.
Well, but you're also going to then give the B, right?
Yeah, I just did one at a time.
Oh, okay.
So you need to flip. He needs to flip for his A.
Okay. Heads.
We haven't gotten a tail yet.
So
If I were a betting woman, I'd say we'd get a tail eventually. If we did it enough times, it'd be about 50.
So for the A allele that's part of this, then it looks like the offspring is going to be heterozygous, but eye color is actually determined by two different genes. And so we're going to go for the B allele also.
But we don't have to flip because we both have homozygous dominant. So I got the lowercase b, you got the uppercase b. Bam!
You have homozygous recessive for the B. I have homozygous dominant for that. So therefore, my contribution has to be the dominant form, the capital B, and your contribution has to be the recessive form. So there is our kid. Our kid is going to be heterozygous for those two.
But we don't know what that means, so we got to go
Let's look it
back.
up on the
We got to
code.
go back to figure out what that kid is.
And that kid is a het, and
Gonna
a
have purple
het
eyes.
is going to have brown eyes.
Brown eyes.
It's going to have a
Crazy.
brown-eyed kid. That's
Cool.
There it is. So the phenotype then is brown. So now we have a round-faced, straight-thumbed, brown-eyed kid.
And I think that probably, is there anything else we need to say? Should we let them just go do this activity?
I think it's probably enough to jump off and get it done on their own now.
Some years I have my kids draw their kid for extra credit.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, it's time to take care of our
Oh, that's our brown eyes.
brown-eyed,
Round-headed, brown-eyed. What was the other one? We got it.
straight thumb. There it is. There's our
There
kid.
you go.
Okay.
Over and out. Have a
Okay.
good day, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for playing along.